stream is spectating this. I will be spectating Ekop and Hotform. These two guys are top of the line in Hearthstone, and I guess that's going to be a good match. So they've done the ban phase, and Ekop's Hermelian deck was banned. Sorry about that. We're going to be changing players. Despina, basic Despina, was banned for Hotform. Interesting. Okay, so we have Hotform playing a Dario deck. No, Darius deck, sorry. It's an interesting deck because you rarely see Darius at the card draw being played as much as the advanced one. But it looks like a very heavy control deck. He is playing a Mind Extortion to start with. Lets him look into the opponent's hand to make him discard an artifact or spell card. Lets him control what tools the opponent will have. Ekop seems to be running an Implants deck. Implants being artifacts that you can put on your creatures to buff them. Grappling Hook, very good card. You can use it to buffer the stats of your creature and also let it hook enemies from the back line to put them into the front line. Dominion is actually a very solid faction overall. This hero is a very unique one, probably one of the coolest ones in the game. His hero power being Soul Raven, 2 mana and 2 threshold. You lose 2 life, but you summon a Soul Raven and you buff them all if the opponent has taken damage this turn. It's pretty sweet. So we'll only see Hotform's perspective apparently. Yeah, we will only be seeing Hotform's perspective. So looking at this, Hotform has a very slow. They're both playing an Implants deck, but the approach that Hotform took is one that is probably a lot slower and control based. Given the deck that he's playing, card draw is good. You know, for 3 mana, he gets to draw a card every 2 turns. It adds up, but the question is, how much better is this over getting Soul Ravens, which are not only a threat that you can use your Implants on if you're Ekop, but also a way to gain life in the matchup. It's additional creatures on the board. You're forcing the opponent to deal with additional creatures, and I don't exactly know how powerful Hotform's removal is going to be in that case. Alright, so it looks like Ekop's, he plays Silverblade Warrior, not a card that I see every single time. I kind of like it because it's high speed, it allows it to basically go through most enemies, but it's weak to Assassinate, which is probably one of the best removal tools in the game for some of the smaller creatures. For 2 mana, you deal with anything that has 2 or less attack. In this case, the Silverblade Warrior ended up dying. Hotform develops a 1 mana 3/1 that is unable to attack or block until another creature was played by him. So that's going to give him a pretty big threat, which incidentally, by the way, does not die to Assassinate. So if Ekop is holding on to Flash Freeze, which is a 1 mana spell that deals 1 damage, this could kill it. If he's playing the Bloodthirsty Revenant, he could also kill the Aristocrat by putting a weakness emblem on it, but it does not happen. Again, Spoiled Aristocrat has only 2 speed to Library Guard's 3 speed. So Ekop drew an extra card, so it will not be able to focus the Library Guards by attacking. It will have to wait a little bit longer. This spectating mode is actually surprisingly polished. Surprisingly polished for indie devs. And Hotform using some of the nasty tricks that Dominion has with itself. Helm of Dominion is a 4 mana spell, which allows you to take control of an enemy creature. However, and this is the downside to it, at the beginning of your turn, you will put a weakness emblem on the card you take control of. So this is an amazing tool to deal with some of the bulkiest minions in the game, the bulkiest creatures. If you steal a big creature, then there's no real drawback, because 1 weakness emblem on a 6/6 is really not that big of a deal. But when we're talking about, a 2/3, you are weakening it substantially every single turn. So you have to be cautious with this. As you can see here, it became a 1/2 and is soon going to become a 0/1. Mostly this is there to negate any and everything, and every card that the opponent plays. So Ekop used a shrine to get himself an extra ability. Got the Vampiric Touch to put weakness emblems at will. He put a weakness emblem on the opponent's Spoiled Aristocrat and killed it, gaining 2 life in the process. Then developed his own Spoiled Aristocrat, which he put to the back line to make sure it wasn't going to get killed by the library guards. Pretty good card. Pretty good play there. It actually protects the 3-1 from anything that Hotform may want to do. Now, one thing to keep in mind is Hotform has the option to play Metabolic Overcharger to give this little guy right there extra stats. The drawback is you will start stacking 2 weakness emblems per turn, and that is not something you can afford doing, I do not think. So, Hotform, using the Offering to get himself an extra shrine, picks up a Wisdom Shrine. He really wants to draw cards off of his hero power. At this point, I think it's necessary that he enables it, because, you know, if you can't use this hero power at all during the match, and you rely on it, then what's the point of picking this faction up? However, playing 2 creatures, and this is exactly what he goes for, I was going to say, playing 2 creatures is a really solid threat to pose to Ekop. Because these girls, not only are they 2-mana 2/2s, which is decent, they have deadly, they can kill anything they hit, but when they deal damage to the enemy hero, Hotform will have the choice to pay 1 mana to look at Ekop's hand and select what he wants to take out of it. Anything that is not a shrine can get discarded if it has 2 level or less, so any creature in Ekop's deck is liable to get taken out by the Temptresses, so Ekop is probably going to struggle to deal with them. And what's worse, if somehow Ekop puts creatures that can block the Temptresses, Metabolic Overcharger will guarantee that these girls will be able to trample over an enemy. So as long as they have more attack than the opponent creature's toughness, they will be able to still deal damage to him and then look at the hand. Very good play there by Hotform. I like this development and tempo. When you've got 4 open mana and the opponent has nothing but a Spoiled Aristocrat on the back line, it's very tough for him to counter your plays. Backline and frontline is pretty simple. Alright, so we see here that Ekop opts to play the Blood-Seeking Mutant, reduces the stats of the Temptress of Deceit to a 1/1, making it a lot easier to manage. I don't know if he has any other means to finish it off besides attacking with the Spoiled Aristocrat. One of the plays that he can make is using the Spoiled Aristocrat next turn to block one of the Temptresses, because this one will be going down to a 0/1. Getting the second weakness emblem from the Helm of Dominion means it won't be able to hit anything or kill the Spoiled Aristocrat, so it will get to block the 2/2. I would not be against putting the Blood-Seeking Mutant back on the front line and playing a Soul Raven. That way you can use the Soul Raven to block the Temptress as a 1/1. I think that's the play. It would let you trade with the 3/1 into the 2/2 and use the Soul Raven to kill the 1/1 Temptress. Unless, of course... Oh, better yet. This is even better. Yeah, this is actually surprisingly powerful for Ekop. And, I mean, little does he know, though, that he's going to be running into Metabolic Overcharger, but I don't think he can afford playing around that. And there is, right now, no way for Hotform to kill the Blood-Seeking Mutant unless he chooses to use the Metabolic Overcharger to do so. And if he does so, I would imagine it is on the Temptress of Deceit it would go. So he will mulligan away, Divine Offering away the Assassin. Does not need it for now. Probably get himself some extra mana. He does. And that gives him the ability to play the Overcharger, which I think at this point he has to do. And I would have used it on the Temptress to attack the Blood-Seeking Mutant. But he makes a much ballsier play. So he will kill, undoubtedly, the mutant with his 3/4. Assassinate being in Ekop's hand is a dead giveaway for Hotform that he has to take it out because he wants to keep his Temptress of Deceit. This is a great play by Hotform. I suspect he will have to use remove the Temptress of Deceit, put her on the back line for the time being, because right now he gets to attack with the 3/4, remove the remaining card in Ekop's hand, and also guarantee himself just about any type of value he wants going forward. Ekop has the option of blocking the Temptress if he wants. Either way, he's losing his hand, right? He is losing his hand no matter what he does. The question is, does he think that losing the Aristocrat is going to be worth it. I would have perhaps considered not doing so, just because I could have attacked with the Aristocrat as a follow-up and acquired a buffed up Soul Raven, but Ekop deems the trade worthwhile. Now here we have 2 weakness emblems on Library Guards, and they will keep stacking 2 per turn, so it'll be going back down to a 1-2 just this turn, which makes it pretty mediocre. Ekop is going to have to do something with that hand of his. I wish I could see Ekop's hand. I can probably change perspective. I would like to see Ekop's hand at the moment. It would be nice to see what Ekop is holding, or what he picked up. But in order to do so, I have to leave this view. Okay, so he puts down a Soul Raven. And oh, this is great. That is insane for Ekop. So, Force Mage Protector gets picked up by Ekop, which gives him the ability to put shields on friendly targets, which incidentally is going to keep alive the Soul Raven that he's holding. I really like this deck building from Ekop. Really liking this. Weakness Emblem giving creatures -1/-1 until basically Library Guards dies next turn, and the Metabolic Overcharger will do nothing, because having only 1 attack with the Metabolic Overcharger is going to be of no help, because Ekop can simply block the 1-2 that is here. I mean, he cannot, he can't block it, but he cannot lose very much with it, given that the 2-2 and the 1-1 will basically stay alive no matter what. As long as this shield is applicable, the deadly does not apply, since damage will not be done. And Ekop, did he lose anything out of that play? I didn't see. So there was no mana left over for Hotform. Could not remove anything in the opponent's hand. Ekop is basically in a dominant position, to the point where it would be hard to lose if he can keep up the pressure. But one good top deck from Hotform would be sufficient to bring this back. A Karthus, for instance, would do a ton of work. Karthus being a legendary that can deal with anything that has less than 4 attack, and also heal you. It's a very strong creature. We'll have to see what Ekop ends up doing. And he goes ahead and buffs up, I'm assuming, the Soul Raven. The Soul Raven is going to be a 4/4 with Livebound. So 6 damage coming in for Hotform's face. And because the Raven is Livebound, it will heal up Ekop. Really solid play there. And we see the Assassin being developed, Shadow Step Assassin by Ekop as well. And one thing to note is that Ekop has access to Vampiric Touch. He is able to put weakness emblems on targets of his choice. So he has the option of reducing Shadow Step Assassin's attack to a 0. Basically meaning that the Shadow Step Assassin will deal no damage. So it negates its effectiveness severely. Here, Hotform will have no choice but to try cycling even further. He picks up Cathedral of the Night, but it feels a bit slow. We know what he's playing next turn, though. There is no doubt that this will be the play that he makes. It's too reliable not to make. Picks up a Disquisitive Spirit, a 1/1 flying with very high speed. Lets him draw a card when it dies. So lots of card draw coming up for Hotform. Lots of card draw. And that will determine the future of these turns. 2 cards in Ekop's hand, which I would like to see right now. I guess we'll get a bit of a glimpse of those cards. We'll get a glimpse of those cards right afterwards. I imagine at least one of them is going to be played. Soul Raven by Ekop can be used this turn as well, which will give him +1/+1 on the Soul Ravens that will be alive at the end of the turn. So I would not be surprised to see Vampiric Touch be used on the Assassin, followed by a trade or an attack from the Shadow Step Assassin onto this one, and then everything goes face. You know, that's a lot of health gain, and you do get... Actually, better yet, you could use Vampiric Touch on Disquisitive Spirit to kill it, and then force the trade with your Assassins. That's another line of play. Oh, Ekop picks up the Gnome Surgeon. 2-mana card, lets you fetch implants from your deck and attach them directly to creatures on the board. So he will use the ability right away, exhaust the Gnome Surgeon, and really go ahead and fetch himself an implant. The hook is not as good as probably another Metabolic Overcharger at this point. But we'll see what he ends up playing. Some people like to play some of the funkier ones, but he does go for the double metabolic overcharger. One on the Raven, one on the Force Mage. He tries to force a trade with the Shadow Step Assassins. I assume he's going to use the Vampiric Touch on the Disquisitive Spirit before he goes forward, but that means he won't be able to play the Soul Raven. So, yeah, I'm guessing this trade is still good, given that these two are unstoppable. It is very powerful. Even if this blocks any of these two at all, it would still work. I assume there's a chance that Hotform tries to just block the Shadow Step with this Disquisitive Spirit to keep the deadly. But it's gonna be a bit clunky for Ekop if something good gets picked up. So Ekop is going to protect his assassin to make sure it doesn't die to the opponent's assassin, yet he still gets to kill the opponents. And now we have to see what Hotform picks up. This is going to be the draw that wins or loses the game for Hotform, I think. He's going to need to find something amazing to win the game, and he picks up the Helm of Dominion, which could let him steal something powerful. I'm not sure what, if anything, can save him here. He would have to pick up the Soul Raven from Ekop. That doesn't feel good. That does not feel good. There doesn't seem to be much of an alternative. It's gonna come down to the Helm of Dominion stealing some type of Lifebound card, which in this case would actually be able to block the Force Mage for the opponent, and Hotform concedes to Ekop, which just shows that he was very far behind. So that's one deck down. Ekop ended up beating his opponent with the first deck. There is still another one for Ekop to win. It's a best of 3 conquest, so it's not quite over. We have to see what Hotform and Ekop end up facing off with again. There's going to be a replay here from Hotform if he wants, and he goes for his Corruption deck. Interestingly enough, so does Ekop. Ekop goes for the Nepharos Basic and Nepharos Advanced for Hotform. Nepharos Advanced being a lot more of a necromantic character. It lets you sacrifice some of your health to return a creature that died this turn and bring it back onto the board. It's a very complex deck to play. Those that play this deck usually end up having to do a lot of tough decisions, and they're a lot more about control. So Ekop's deck is usually a bit more aggressive, tends to be more the zombie type, reduces the speed of enemy targets by 1. You can target it every single 2 turns. Every 2 turns you can use a single creature. Use it on a single creature to reduce its speed by 1, which makes it so it's attackable by zombies, possibly unable to block some of your higher speed characters, which is great. It's a very good ability. Now, Plague Vermin is not a card that you see all that often in this type of deck, I would say. I would say that Hotform's inclusion of the Vermin is more unusual than anything else. He is playing a zombie deck from what we saw. So the goal of the deck that Hotform's playing is to play the Blood Witch Harpy as a permanent control tool. Every turn forces the opponent to lose a creature that is of level 1. So it means that Ekop's zombies, if he's playing zombie, are going to die pretty reliably. In the meantime, Hotform is able to capitalize on those deaths by using Necromantic Cult, which when something dies you can buff up with Emblems of Might. And incidentally, if something dies, you can use your hero power, Occultism, to bring it back. So these hero abilities are very powerful. I really like this type of deck. It's very tough, however, for Hotform. Like, this is a bad spot for Hotform. I ended up blanking on the sacrifice earlier. Didn't pick up another shrine, so he effectively discarded a card when he didn't find that shrine. A little unfortunate. You know, one of the things that I want to mention here is that I don't know how many shrines were put in that deck. I have no idea. I think I'll export the deck list to go check out whether or not, like, how many shrines were in Hotform's deck. Whoa, I'm getting a black screen here. Alright, we're back. Sorry about this, guys. Something went wrong as I alt-tabbed. Alright, this game is, this is actually catching, Hotform is catching up here, ended up finding something he wanted. Ekop is saving his Spark of Initiative for a big play. I'm not too sure yet exactly what's in there. I'm not exactly sure. It's interesting. It is an interesting one. So Ekop, is he running a monocolored deck? That's what I want to know. This is very important that we know whether... I'm guessing it's like a mono-black succubus deck. Maybe they're both playing something about, you know, identical. I wouldn't be surprised if both played a very similar deck list. One of the things that Ekop may be running that Hotform isn't is some of the more zombie heavy cards, because usually Hotform's type, like the hero from Hotform, doesn't lend itself too well to heavy to a heavy zombie. Usually it'll be like you curve up with some of the big cards in black, and you rely on them to carry you, like Necromantic Cult. It's not usually everywhere. Well, Ekop picks up Tombs of the Damned. Dead giveaway that he's playing zombie. 3 mana, 2 black. When Tombs of the Damned enters the field and leaves the field, at the start of your turn you summon a zombie legionnaire. So, what is interesting about Tombs of the Damned is that it is a spell, and one of the things that black or corruption is known for is its an ability to deal with spells. There's only one card in the game at the moment that I think is able to handle those, and unfortunately for Hotform, it's not a type of card you would include very frequently. It's very rare that you'll run into someone who's teching against spells in black. It's usually not the best, I guess, the best faction to start taking that in. Which means this is likely just going to stick around for the rest of the game. And that is going to make Hotform's life miserable. Absolutely miserable. So Bloodwitch Harpy. Perfect counter to this Tombs of the Damned. At the very least, Hotform has some way to force Ekop to sacrifice his zombies. But unfortunately for him, whenever a zombie is sacrificed, Ekop picks up 1 extra mana. So yes, it removes creatures, but Ekop is still getting accelerated mana-wise. So Tombs of the Damned, very good card if you're hoping to ramp up when Bloodwitch is there. Opens up a lot of plays that you otherwise would not be able to make. So, although Hotform may be happy, Ekop may be happier. He's got himself a permanent generator of extra mana every turn. Interesting, interesting. I kind of like this. Now, interesting here that Hotform chose not to... Well, you know what? I assume he will use the Plague Vermin and sacrifice it at the end of the turn for Ekop. Because one of the things that you have to note here is that, you know, Hotform will also have to sacrifice the Plague Vermin. And if he does so, then it lets him ramp up a little bit. He'll get 1 extra mana, and with that mana, he can actually cast the Necromantic Cult. And another 2-drop if he wants to. Wow, that was an insane start. So what happened here with Ekop is he ended up overwriting Tombs of the Damned, which gave him not only the Tombs of the Damned zombie per turn, but also the one when it came into play, and also the one when it left the field. So, in a nutshell, Ekop basically spawned a ton of zombies. One of which was actually a card from his hand, strictly. He played Zombie Legionnaire from hand, but these other ones were from the... Oh my god, this is unbelievable. Okay. I'm actually really curious as to where this is going to go. There's a good play here for Hotform. Able to play Corruption Shrine if he wants. To get himself to a 3rd Corruption level, and then use Necromantic Cult, and then he can attack a zombie with the Bloodwitch Harpy, and pay 1 mana to put a Might Emblem on Necromantic Cult to kill another zombie. And funny enough, he's also going to be able to use the Zombify next turn if he wants. I mean, I guess he could play it now, might as well. Yeah, he's going to use it now. So he's going to attack the 2/2 zombie here. I would attack the one that is not summoned on the off chance that you find a play with it that doesn't involve... Okay, so the targeting was perhaps a bit different than what I would have done, but it doesn't matter too much, I don't think, in this matchup. Actually, it does matter, because there's a card that summons zombies for non-summoned cards that die. So if you attack the ones that are summoned, indicated by this little symbol here, you give them the opportunity later to... use the ones that don't have that symbol as ways to generate more zombies. So the zombie has been found for Hotform. So this is a solid board for Hotform. I'd say Hotform right now is in a very solid position. He gets free zombies that he can sacrifice to get extra mana. I would have been tempted to move the zombie back to the back line. Just because you then are able to guarantee to can sacrifice it with a Blood Witch to get more mana. But if you don't need that mana, then of course that is irrelevant. Yeah, somebody in the chat is mentioning the card acquisition rate of this game. Yes, it is in fact very generous. It's a very generous game with the way, the rate at which you get the cards. It's very good. At the end of each series, that is every single best of 3, we will be, I will be posting a ton of card back codes in the chat. The card back codes are for the Noxious card back. So, if you guys want it, you can get it. Other casters casting BlizzCon qualifier. Who's that? I haven't actually seen the roster they've got for BlizzCon. Alright, so it looks like the Necromantic Cult had its speed reduced by Ekop. And this is really strong because he gave all his zombies deadly, meaning that there is no way Hotform can prevent these little tutus from killing his Necromantic Cult. Ouch, that's gotta sting. Oh, that is really tough. That's a tough pill to swallow. That is a tough pill to swallow. But Hotform is still in a great spot. He's got the Consume Spirits, which he can use to give a creature -X/-X. X being equal to his corruption level, in this case 3. So he can use this to give -3/-3 to this zombie lord, the Undead Necromancer. If he wants to, which he wants to. Yeah, it's good because you can give your the Undead Necromancer -3/-3, and then it also incidentally buffs your Harpy by +3/+3. He can use the other one to make the Harpy even stronger, to get as much possible damage in as he can. And as you can see here, the amount of damage that Hotform's packing is just unmanageable. Like, this is very high amounts of damage. He's choosing to make a trade. I must say, I did not expect that. But he may be afraid of being forced to sacrifice the Blood Witch Harpy, or just wants to get these zombies under control. Because as you can see here, you know, when the zombie was spawned for Ekop from Tombs of the Damned, it was forced to be sacrificed immediately to the Blood Witch Harpy's effect. So I guess Hotform is wanting to play the longer game here. And I mean, it makes sense if you consider the fact that Ekop may have Succubi, which will leech health away from you if you're Hotform. And in that case, the Blood Witch Harpy is having to fight on 2 fronts at once, and going face is no longer an option. It's a very weird spot. Ekop is playing the Undead Necromancer, uses the same trick on the Harpy as Hotform used on him just a second ago. And I guess it's going to be an exchange of Consumed Spirits for a little while. We see here the Consumed Spirit in Hotform's hand can also deal with the Undead Necromancer. But here's the deal. Here's the deal. Hotform is actually able to use Occultism if he wants. He just needs to have a creature on the board, and he picks up Tombs of the Damned of his own. Okay, now we're talking. So there's a play here where you play Mesmerizing Spirit to force Ekop to discard a card. Then you Consume Spirit, the Undead Necromancer, after using Zombify. So you end up with a zombie and Mesmerizing Spirit on the board at the end of that sequence. Gives you a solid board, and the opponent is not holding on to the Necromancer afterwards. And you get to keep Occultism for when something even nicer or more relevant comes out on the field. I like that line of play. Alternatively, a very solid and boring one is Tombs of the Damned. Just straight up, play that with Mesmerizing Spirit. It's enough, you do get a zombie anyway. And you get to establish board dominance anyway. There's a lot of plays here that can be made in the next few turns. It all hinges on what Ekop is holding. Yeah, Tomb summons zombies no matter what. It's like, basically this is the ultimate ever zombie summoning card. It's a great tool. It's just a great tool, straight up. Alright, so Consume Spirit is being used. And he plays the Zombify, which made sense. So as you can see here, the board belongs to Hotform. But we'll have to see what Ekop pulls together. He immediately uses the Corruption Shrine to increase his mana count, so he's got to have a play lined up. He plays Mesmerizing Spirit, forces Hotform to discard a card. I imagine you want to discard Consume Spirit here. Having the counter Tombs of the Damned is way too valuable to throw away. It is a 1-card investment that does tremendous amounts of work. And here we see Insatiable Ghoul. Great 3-drop. Unbelievably powerful. Not something you see in every single list. For zombies, of course, you will see it. It forces you to find a card in your deck, in your graveyard, and put it at the bottom of your deck. If you cannot do so, you then decay 3 cards and you exhaust Insatiable Ghoul. So it either forces you to put stuff from your graveyard under your deck, or put stuff from your deck into the graveyard. And even though the second portion may look like a drawback, in zombie decks, there are ways to bring back to life some of the dead stuff. So as you might imagine, there's no real reason not to play this. Now, I'm surprised at this line of play that was taken right here by Hotform, throwing away the 6/6 Unstoppable Hydra. Very solid card. Oh, but he picks up a Succubus. Even better. So Ekop does have a good array of cards he can put back under his deck for the effect of the Insatiable Ghoul. And Hotform immediately wants to get himself this Succubus. I mean, there's no reason not to. This Tombs of the Damned, that is. The earliest it comes out, the easier it will be for him to contest the opponent's Tomb of the Damned. Now, interesting spot. He chooses to attack with a Zombie Legionnaire, which could just get blocked by the 3/4. So he might have the option. I'm actually unsure about this play. Not a big fan of this, I'll be honest. It's a sacrifice for the sake of a sacrifice. If anything, it may force the ghoul to exhaust itself. But if you do that, then maybe you have to attack with a Mesmerizing Spirit. So he blocks. And nothing bad comes of it. I'm actually not sure why that play was made by Hotform. I think he was trying to mind games Ekop into being afraid of Noxious Fumes. This must be it. He's trying to force Ekop to make a play. But I don't think you can use Noxious Fumes after this, right? Like, would you use it on the Insatiable Ghoul? You probably would. I think Hotform was trying to mind game his opponent into a misplay, but Ekop didn't care. If he lost the Ghoul, he was still in a great spot. It would have also meant that Hotform was down to 0 cards in hand, and not enough mana to use his hero power, so he would still not be able to get Insatiable Ghoul to steal it from his graveyard. And Succubus is played by Ekop, giving him a 3 health gain and 3 health loss for Hotform. This card creates a 6 health differential, which is insane when you can reanimate it, and it looks like Ekop is taking a commanding lead on this board. But it's not over. It looks perhaps like it's a dire position, but we see here that the occultism is going to allow, potentially, Hotform to swing back on this board very powerfully. And we see here Mesmerizing Spirit with Succubus, 2 cards that can be played. You can also hold on to that Succubus and attack with it when you want. Only 1 card left in Ekop's hand. This graveyard for Ekop only has 2 creatures left, if I'm not mistaken. That is it. 2 creatures left, which means the zombie right here will not be able to do very much. So it looks like he will try to find himself another shrine instead of finding or trying to get himself a Succubus on the board. Sanctum of the Void, a shrine that lets you force the opponent to sacrifice cards. In many cases, this might seem like a meaningless card to have, but it gives you the ability to control the game for the longer period. So, considering how far behind he is, I suspect this is a necessary play. And now I wonder if Ekop may sacrifice the Succubus because he's playing Reanimate. If he has Reanimate in his deck, then I would give him an interesting play. That would be an interesting play. It would be a dead giveaway, but I don't assume he would play Reanimate. It would be very unusual. So it's likely we just see a boring sacrifice. And in fact, we do. We see the most boring sacrifice of them all, the Insatiable Ghoul. And Hotform snatches it right away. He's happy to take it. A 3/4 is pretty solid if you're Hotform. I'm not sure what Ekop's long-term game plan is, letting his opponent get away with this instead of sacrificing a zombie to the effect. So look at the rotation that Hotform's got on his hero powers. It's a really interesting spot. Oh, that is not good. That right there is not good. That's a rough one. Alright, so this little 3-4 here. This little 3-4 here is so I wonder if Ekop did not let his opponents take the Initial Ghoul, knowing full well that it would be worthless, and it would also clog the mana usage of Hotform last turn. By incentivizing him to use Occultism on a 3-4 instead of waiting to find perhaps a better time. And right now Ekop is just dominating this board state. Hotform unlikely to have many answers to a state like this, especially since he's one turn late on the rotation of hero powers. 22 months resub here for Charles. Thank you. It is a live tourney, yes it is. And Infernal Tribute, forcing Ekop to sacrifice 2 creatures. One of which will undoubtedly be Infected Survivor, given that when it dies it summons a zombie. It's not as though Hotform is swimming in options anyway. This is a spot where you very frequently see people divine offering a single card to find something perhaps a bit better, like even a shrine, but you know, this doesn't even discard a card for the opponent. He can block 1 creature. Ekop is technically still alive at the end of this turn. I mean, Hotform. So one of the things that Hotform may be considering is not playing the Spirit, and instead trying to like find a better tool than what he's got right now. I'm a little surprised, honestly, by the throw that he made on the 6/6 earlier. The Unstoppable Hydra. Even though it might have died, it would have still traded with a good portion of the board. And now we see Ekop picking up a shrine, and he draws a card. We'll see whether or not that is a winning card, and that is, in fact, a winning card. This will give one of his creatures +3/+3, kill the high-speed creature that he's got, and that will be the end of it. Everything is going full-on face, and Ekop takes this series 2-0 over Hotform. So Hotform falls down to the might of his more basic self, Nepharos. Just goes to show that there's no clear distinction between, you know, the power level between a basic and an advanced hero.